What's going on, guys? This is the official BTC breakdown, the trades that I took, the ones we called out in the Discord. Also including, I will put the screen recording of the trades being closed out, the internal transfer, and the Coinbase withdrawal. First off, we are on the weekly time frame, so I did want to point this out just so that way we can just get an overall idea of what was taking place. We were getting essentially higher highs and higher lows. And once again, this is just basic market structure. We can even see our market structure break in order block indicator that we have up here. This one right here, right below EMA 200. That already automatically labels out the structure for us. So we're seeing these things take place, but mind you, there's certain things that I look for in order to truly identify the market structure break. So as we had price pushing up to these highs, we see price failed to break those highs. We got a bearish order block. And the other thing too that I always like to look at is when we get a market structure break to the downside, I want to see that occur. Once it breaks over here to the right, I want to see a pullback and then a break again. So as long as this area here gets broken a second time and closed below, then more often than not, that's an indication that we are breaking those areas and potentially going down even further. So the same thing happens over here as well. Let me draw an arrow. We see this was our previous low. Now over here to the right, when price breaks through, we're not looking at as the initial, this isn't the entire move. This is just that first break where we like to see some type of retracement and retest, which once again, this support becomes resistance over here. Just like I always explain, like Mario, once he breaks through the floor, if he jumps up and hits his head on what used to be the floor now turns ceiling, then that is also why I put this purple rectangle right here. Oh, whoops. That's why I put the purple rectangle right here in this area, because this essentially is just marking out an entire week's move from when we did break structure. So once you mark that out, then essentially what you are anticipating, if price does retrace and respect support as resistance, then we more than likely will complete the entire move and then potentially go extend to create another leg, which as of right now, I do still see Bitcoin as bearish, even as we sit at this current time of recording, June 23rd, 2026 at 1:28 p.m. Eastern time. Now, mind you, we didn't see none of this move right here existed obviously as we were in the trade. I am gonna like zoom in, go on the lower time frames, but there's a couple other key factors too as to why I was so heavy on sells, is because of the current state of affairs with the war in Iran, and what's going on. As far as at that time, there was a lot of talks of, agreements have been made for a peace treaty and things of that nature, but it was just all talks. Nothing had officially took place, and I personally didn't see that coming to a close anytime soon. So let's go ahead and jump to a lower time frame. This is just overall weekly time frame analysis. Then as we jump down to the daily time frame, let me get out of there we go. Once we jump down to the daily time frame, we're going to look at where we had first initially got in the sells, then where we sat in a little bit of drawdown. The second time we got in the sells, let me see if I can figure out how to delete. Let's see here. Oh, that's a moving average. We don't delete that. Can delete this. Let me delete this arrow. Perfect. All right, let's zoom in. So a couple things that we see initially off Bucks is, once again, over here to the left, we had this was a weekly move that broke the previous structure zone. And then simultaneously, now we're getting retracement. We're getting higher highs and higher lows within the retracement move up. Then ultimately what we get here is a bearish order block. And this is what you can do as well too, is you want to take your fib, boom. put the magnet back on. Let's go from the high. Whoops, I got it backwards. There we go. We want our 0% to be down at the bottom, and we want our A to be up here at the top. Okay. Whoops. Gotta undo that. Okay, so as we can see, we have our A right here, our B at the bottom of this move for the weekly. Price retraced. We see price had come to the 61.8, but didn't go and create a new low. So even in this area, as we're seeing support zones get a little bit higher and higher, this is validating the retracement. Okay. Now, ultimately, we did get 120% retracement on this weekly move. The good thing, though, is, once again, you get the bearish order block, and price came back down below this resistance area. And then this is where we have the market structure break to the upside. Once that gets broken below, same type of thing we talked about before, we want to see price retrace back and then close back below this level again, which is also, so now let me zoom in again so that way we can get in detail of where the first trade took place. All right, boom, right here. This is the primary zone that we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to circle it, this area here. Okay. What took place is we had the 120% rejection on the daily time frame. Now we're on the 4-hour time frame, and we see that the highs are starting to weaken and get lower. Then ultimately we had the first break, market structure break to the downside. What do we want to see? Retracement, and then close back below again. Once that takes place, we're pretty confident that we're not going to be seeing lower lows, lower highs. Okay, this area here, this day right here is like Friday, May 22nd. Okay, that day specifically, my girlfriend and I had went to Puerto Rico. So I had called out shorts at this red line around this area, and they were relatively risk-free. I mean, we had just got smooth, clean flow all the way down to the support area. And at this point, this trade had been like my 5th time floating up over 100K in 2 months. But the problem was I wasn't closing. I would be up, and then I'm rolling my stop loss to break even. And that's essentially the same thing that happened with this trade, because as price rejected this 74,000 area, price obviously came back up. And on the lower time frame, we go to like 1 hour, 2 hour, you can see where we are getting market structure breaks, and could have been a valid reason for me to close. But unfortunately, I only took about 40,000 out of the 100K as price was retracing, and then the rest of my orders got hit at stop loss at break even. Okay, I ended up re-entering. Let's go to the 2 hour time frame, get a little bit more detail. Okay, yep, here we are. Okay, so let me draw just so that way everyone can see. Let me turn the magnet off. Okay, it's off. Okay, so this area here was the Puerto Rico sell. This is as low as it had got, plus 100K. I only took about 40K, probably like around here, maybe even a little higher. Had everything else stop loss at break even, and that all got hit. Okay, now the second time around, which probably would have been around here, I got back in on the fact that seeing highs still being formed. Okay, and once again, let me just draw this out as well so that way you can see the fib, because this is important. This is the stuff that gives you peace of mind, even though when the trade is not going according to plan. Okay, so boom. This trade here took place where we're seeing bearish candles. We're below all 3 moving averages. We're not seeing any bullish candles form a level of support at these areas. So this trade, ultimately, I was up over 100K, maybe even like 120, and only got to close out about 40,000. Got hit at stop loss break even. Then once this had occurred, I probably was a little bit over eager because you guys know, at least the people in the group know, I like to wait for the 88.6. So I was a little over eager on getting my initial batch of entries there. I did go into some profit, but then you can see it was short lived, and then we ended up back in some drawdown. Now, even though there's a market structure break here, the overall higher time frame still suggests downtrend. So the rules I had as far as like wanted to see price break and then close back below. Once again, even as we're gonna talk about this wick here in a second, it's not a closed candle. You guys know I always talk about closed candles. At the time on lower time frames, yes, they're closed candles, but if price retraces and respects those areas, then that's all the more confirmation. Now, the thing that is unfortunate and scary about this, though, is this is the type of moves that are liquidating all the people who do have sells. Because price within 5 minutes, let me go to a little bit lower time frame. Let me go to the 1 hour. I was at the airport, so we had finished our trip, and we're coming back home. I'm at the airport, still in these cells, and at this point, my logic, I think that I'm trying to remember what the account initial balance was. It was like maybe 40K, 70, something along those lines. Got to up to 170K. When I'm sitting in drawdown, at this point, I'm now I'm right around 100,000, a little over 100,000, like 112,000. I think is the biggest screenshot that I got and sitting in drawdown. Now, mind you, because the account started at, I'm trying to remember whether it was 40 or 70. I think it was 40. And then I had closed out the 100K on the XRP trade, and then the added 30 on Bitcoin, closing out some of those positions. But at that point, even though I'm negative 100, yes, this is a very aggressive style of trading. This is not necessarily what I would recommend for beginners. And also, if I was trading, let's say, a hedge fund, then this is not the type of risk I would be using. But this is the same. I compare this to surfers who go out to Portugal to surf the waves of Nazarene. It's like they don't have to be out there, but they're the craziest waves on earth, and the highest recorded over 100-foot wave. A couple different people have now surfed. So to me, it's like I understand this is very aggressive. Some people look at this as full margin. I don't even count this trade as full margin because we still had over $70,000 that, still would, even at that case, is still plus 30,000 from the initial build, which is how I look at it. So the basically end all be all to get out of the position would have been if these areas of resistance to the left had broke. And once again, you can still get as high as 120% retracement, but that more than likely at that point, then you are on the verge of having to make a tough decision. Do you close? And I'm gonna be honest, guys, I was genuinely thinking about, okay, I could close out 100K. Yes, it would suck, but then that still leaves me with 70K to trade with. This is all full transparency. Not everyone is going to be this real with you guys, but to me, once again, any bread that I put into a trading account is also already supposed to be risk capital, which under the definition is money that you can afford to lose. You should not be having heart attacks over this money. Now, I get that's not always the case. I had to put my last dollars back in 2017, 2018, 2019. I was always putting my last dollars in an account just to try to be able to, have a come up that would sustain, 2-3 months of life. And for the longest, it wasn't happening. But then when breakthroughs started to occur, the amounts would be so life changing that it's like, all right, even though I had to struggle and keep working jobs for 2 years, now when I quote unquote, hit a lick per se, it's like the amounts are enough to be able to sustain, months or years of life. And then also you can reinvest into other projects, other businesses. So, after my little tangent, let me go back. Okay, so we did see we had the 100% retracement, the 88.6. If we went to the lower time frames, because I definitely was on the lower time frames at this point, just because once again, you're negative. You're at the airport, negative all this money, and you got to be up. You're looking at your fib and you're saying to yourself, "Let me go to N15 because, oh man, do this." Where are the candles? There we go. So this is what's nice about it is when you get this big push up, and then on the 88.6, you get this big bearish response candle that also closes below all three moving averages again. And then at that point, you get a market structure break. We don't even come above and close below again. We just retest. But this red line was already the entry areas. Now, I had even got some, I think I took some shorts, a couple more round of shorts up here. When we crossed below two moving averages, we got the break below market structure, came back above, closed back below. So I had took a couple more shorts, but even still, I had my entries here. Price jumps up to 78,000, and within literally 5 minutes, I know this is M15, but that's what it felt like. It felt like it happened in 5 seconds. And then we get this bearish response candle off the 88.6, market structure break. Oh, and then also, mind you, now is a good time for me to show you the what I've also been using, which is the sessions, Lux Algo sessions. Another thing that gives you peace of mind is knowing, all right, well, when you look at previous sessions, you're also seeing levels of resistance that it's like as long as price respects these areas and closes back below, it's just testing highs or lows of previous sessions. So with that taking place, then price started to drop. And at this point, this was one of those, like, I got on the plane. What's even crazier is by the time I'm getting on the plane, though, price is like all the way back down to 76,000. That doesn't mean that it still couldn't go parabolic, but at this point, it's giving you all the confidence. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 tests off the 88.6, and price is coming back down, closing back below the lows, market structure breaks. So this next drop here ends up occurring basically. So then, yeah, it would have been right here is when I was at the airport around 8:45, 9 a.m. This price shoots up before I get on the plane, 10 o'clock. I think the plane started loading at 10:30. 10:30, we're already back 76,000. So once again, all glory to God. I was contemplating closing out my positions. I even remember vividly, like, talking to my, praying to my mom in heaven, just on some, like, please keep me protected and help me make the right decision. Because that's the reality, it's like wins happen, losses happen. It's a part of the game. Not saying that people have to take it to this level, but that's just my personality, being a competitor, former quarterback, and just wanting to play video games and things at a high level. That's how I look at all of this. So by the grace of God, price pushes back down. Now, this is actually the easy part from here. This is where all we're seeing is lower lows and lower highs. At no point, even this London session high, testing off this previous London session low, these are really cool. These are really good things, okay? We're also now below all three moving averages, and this is on M15. So even maintaining, if you maintain using H1, this is where we're seeing price. Let me turn these on. Actually, I'll leave the sessions off right now. We're seeing prices making lower lows, lower highs. The sessions are all respecting. Everything is very smooth. We get to the negative 25%, which at this point, breaking this previous low was relatively easy. So it broke this low, it retested it a little bit on the lower time frames, and then just continued to make its way almost to the negative 50% projection. So at this point, the only retracement that we ended up facing was where we just tested previous support right here, right? Remember, support turns into resistance. We're seeing all the wicks in price. Every time price gets to this area, sellers are like, nah, it's not, we're not going that way. That doesn't always happen. You know, sometimes you might get some spillover and price come up a bit higher and then come back below and close below. So this was actually pretty nice that price just continued to maintain and respect this level of now newfound resistance. Now here's the thing. Once again, whoops, let me go back. Keep everything where it's supposed to be. Okay, this is what's cool. We have on H1, we had that market structure break. Once again, higher time frame. We're still thinking we want to see it cross below, come up above, and then cross below again. Doesn't mean you won't see some drawdown back in that area, but we're also respecting all three of these. Well, yes, we are respecting all three moving averages. One just happens to be much further up, but it's still respecting in regards to prices below. So when price is below all three moving averages, then to us, that's just another confirmation. So we got the break of market structure to the downside. It came back up and closed below again with this candle. So that could have been the entry. Stops up above these highs, up above 74,000. And even if you want to take just back down to the previous low, or dang it, I got to lock that on so it stops moving. Let me click on this real quick and lock this. There we go. Now here's the thing. I end up closing at 72,100. All right. Now, once again, this is a bittersweet conversation because obviously I got life 72,100. Where are we at? Yep. Okay, 72,100. So we'll go like right around here. All right. Whoops. I'll just put this over here. Okay. Now this is bittersweet due to the fact that we did break the lows. We broke these lows over here to the left. And we also are completely below all three moving averages. At this point, this is when I talk about, Davy Jones' locker, swimming to the bottom of the ocean, because we're not seeing any type of retracement. We are just seeing full-on plunge. Now, the reality is there's nothing telling me to get out of the trade, but after having seen it's a relative term. After having seen so much money on the screen in the last 2 months and not having closed to be able to have anything to show for it, that was ultimately the deciding factor. It was a Monday when I closed out. So I remember having gone the weekend, holding the positions where, we're getting retracement and nothing's really happening. And then we're just, I maintained it through the hard part. I waited till we broke lows, and then ultimately, could I have held longer? Yes, but we could always, hindsight is always 20/20, and I was a bit just ready to secure the bag. With that being said, as I zoom out, you can see that price just continued to melt and melt and melt. Thus, in fact, completely filling our entire projected move. So, with all that being said, after having gone through all that drawdown, this basically being my lowest entry. So whenever I put this projection on here, or like this blue profit tracker, it's essentially, I always put it at my lowest entry. So that way, even if I put like where the red line is, my stop loss at break even, then I know, okay, that's at my lowest entries. And there's even trades positions higher up than that. But I just like to, that's a visual thing I do. As far as this entire purple weekly move from the previous one, you see, this was the previous one over here. We're on 1 hour, that's why it takes so long. But this was a whole week. This right here was a whole week of movement, okay? And then now, this was our overall expectation of what would happen with price. This is where we had our lowest entries. We got in. We had price break the low, formed another low, respected resistance, closed below, and once again, you know, it's trust me, I think about this. It would have been, instead of 575,000, would have been probably close to 1.2 million. But I mean, that's what's cool. It's a lot. It's a lot within a lot. I hope this video helps. These are things that even on the XRP trade, I had closed the 100K just to secure 100K. But I had my sells at $1.54 or 45. Let me go real quick and see. Let's go to XRP real quick. Nah, let me just click over here. Okay, let's go to weekly. Let's turn this off. All right, let's take a look. Okay, XRP. Yeah, XRP. And if I delete this real quick, go to the daily. XRP, I had 154. I had 100 lots at 154, and I closed at 143, I believe it was, because the previous like 2-3 trades I had took, I kept getting stop loss at break even. So it's like the psychology wears on you, and then it's like you just, you finally decide, I'm gonna secure, but then what ends up happening? Price goes from 154 all the way down to 105. That trade alone would have been probably over $1 million. So, but the key in all of this is the fact that we have a really good understanding of what is happening in the market. Keep in mind, all this market structure, all these support areas within here, this is all a pattern that's forming within a very strong move to the downside. Okay, so once again, XRP, as of this video, I do anticipate us going lower, at least breaking these lows. I mean, this is what we talk about. Support gets broken. We had it close below and made a new low on a lower time frame, 4 hours. Those are closed candles. But then we want to see the retracement and then a close back below again. So we still are going lower. That's the reality. But as far as us, why even on this trade, it's the same type of thing, because you can just take your fib. There's the fib. Okay. From here to here. And that's all that ends up being. You can also go reverse. There's so many different ways you can draw fibs, but ultimately price, just for this example, we see we had our high and our low within the consolidation. You know what I mean? And we got a 61.8, but price didn't come. Price is still just forming higher lows within this counter trend retracement. Even this 61.8, we're not breaking any of these lows. We still just want to wait until some form of resistance takes place. Mind you, this day specifically was the Crypto Clarity Act news that had come out. So a lot of times when those type of events happen, it's almost like a false move to the upside to get people think, oh, Crypto Clarity Act, this is gonna be the reason why it goes back up to $2, but ultimately just was a false move to wipe out sellers, then get people to have FOMO to want to chase the buys, and then ultimately we get the slight break below support, comes back above, and then closes back below, and then the rest is history from there. We just keep making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. This lower high though, this lower high, instead of getting a lower low, price forms some level of support. So it's the same type of thing. We're waiting for a market structure break. Get that, and then retracement, and then now here we are, more than likely heading sub $1. Is how I see it. But yeah, I hope this video helps. I hope the Discord, if you guys aren't in the Discord, make sure you join that. And I'm just really grateful. I'm looking forward to this. Is once again, as I said previously, there's different styles of trading, not just scalping, intraday swinging. It's also risk management styles. And I'm looking forward to being able to trade where I really am only risking 1%, 2%, 3%. But my goal was always that, but I just knew if you have the skill set and you're willing to be aggressive and you have risk appetite, yes, the downside of me being wrong about positions and leveraging so much is my money would be gone. But the upside is that if I'm right and my analysis is correct and I have the mental fortitude and EQ to be able to sit in these positions for days, weeks, and as most people know, that big XRP trade, 462 days I was in that trade. Now, the swaps and everything else and the conclusion of it wasn't what I had hoped, but I so much learned and so much growth internally, seeing millions of dollars, well, not millions, but over $1 million and hundreds of thousands of dollars fluctuating on my screen almost every day for a year. That changed how I perceive money. So sometimes your growth is not always going to reflect on your trading account. Sometimes it reflects internally, and then later on, because you're growing and your subconscious and your mind is expanding, then there is no going back to its initial state. It's like if you stretch the neck of a t-shirt, you're not going to shrink it back. It's not for permanently stretched. So that's kind of been my goal within trading. And like I said, I hope this video helps. I hope if you genuinely feel like God has put a call on your life to trade and do that, then I'm praying for your success, because I know the numbers are definitely against us. Over 95% fail rate within day trading. And, even a person who has made it to the positive 5%, I still know you're playing with fire, and it's very important to accept what you sign up for. So with all that being said, even if you're just learning to trade so that way you can mark up a chart and be an investor, which is a lot less risky, I highly recommend and hope that you're doing that too, because there's no way of getting around it. Investing or having systems in order to be able to take money and then multiply it, that is the cheat code. Otherwise, as an employee, we only ever exchange our time for the dollars. But when you can start exchanging dollars during the time, then it changes the game. Because to make $575,000, I mean, obviously minus what I deposited, but to make that kind of money, I would have been working at Target for years and then that doesn't include bills and everything else. So to me, this was always like the video game to be able to get ahead. And like I was honest about earlier, it's like for 2 years, every time I would load an account, I would blow the money. So it's not an easy game, I can't stand people who make it seem what it's not. This is a very, very difficult game. It's going to question a lot of things about you and yourself internally. And you just you gotta cancel out the noise. It's gonna be people that hate on you. It's gonna be people that think you can't do something. The list is long. You just gotta focus on what you are when you look in the mirror and what you feel like God has put on your heart to do. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I plan on being a bit more active as well. I'm kind of going through a move right now, or like prepping for a move. But yeah, I'm praying for you guys, and let's continue to finish the rest of this year strong.